Oh, goody.
All right, what's going on, everybody? Zombies here again, and today we're back with another Marble Snap video. So in this one, we are taking a look at decks for tonight's hot location. That is the Bifrost. So break out those move cards, because when turn 4 comes, things are going to be shifting to the right. So let's take a look at the decks we have for this one. Starting out, this is my own brew that I played before the location, but really liked. I think it's an underrated archetype, and it's a fun way to play move if you're like me and don't always enjoy going super all in on the archetype. I've found the move cards to be cool, but I usually have a better time trying to move my opponent's stuff around as well as my own stuff around for benefit. So we're actually very light on the move payoffs, but I don't think you really need to be that heavy on them when you just have a lot of good cards in your deck. So Kraven's our main payoff here that we're going to get some benefit for not only moving our stuff around, but the opponent's stuff around. He's very easily a 2/6 in most games, and if he gets any bigger than that, it's just pure extra benefit. But this card's been very impressive to me. Also, Angela. I feel like Angela's a card a lot of people have forgotten about. Haven't seen her played by many other folks in some time, but Angela's really good with move cards because instead of her capping out at being a 2/6, she could be a 2/8 or a 2/10 with our cards such as Jeff and Nightcrawler that can give her a boost and then move on to somewhere else. Iceman is a really, really good 1-drop right now for disrupting the opponent's tempo. Tempo is a really important thing in how the current meta seems to be trending, so being able to disrupt your opponent from curving out is really, really good. We have the Storm and Juggernaut combo, another instance of us moving the opponent's cards around. You will have to plan a little bit with the Bifrost to a Storm, but you could also Storm the Bifrost if you're worried about the effect being more useful for your opponent rather than you. Polaris is another really good one here where we can pull something out of the Storm lane, we can pull something into our Kraven lane, we can lock down an opponent's lane if it's already pretty full. Very good utility card. Shuri, people I think moved away from Shuri too fast. She's still a really, really good card, especially when combined with our powerful 5-drops here, such as Vision, who has that utility of not being able to easily be Shang-Chi'd even when he's buffed up because he can move around, and Arrow, who even after her recent nerf is still really good at disrupting the opponent's game plan while putting out a solid amount of stats. And then Miles is often a really good tempo play since a lot of the turn stuff will be moving around, which makes him a 1/5, which is really, really good. So that's our first deck. Let's take a look at the next one. Next up here, we have a take on Move Surfer. So Surfer has been an archetype that's been coming back into popularity after the recent patch, and Move has always been kind of a lesser represented but very interesting way to build Surfer. So this is a Sarah Surfer deck, so we're trying to throw down 3 3s on the final turn, one of which being Surfer, to close out the game. But we actually have access to some pretty powerful stuff. Again, this one, we don't go all in on the move, but we have enough move to really get some good benefit out of the hot location. So Kraven, obviously, really, really good 2-drop for this kind of deck. Cloak gives us another way of moving our stuff around, and sometimes it's just not a bad tempo 2/4. Especially if the opponent doesn't have stuff out yet. Iron Fist as our main 1-drop, just for a little bit more redundancy in being able to move cards around for Kraven, or probably our most important move card here, which is Vulture. Vulture's going to be our big boy. We're going to be moving him around quite a few times, and he is usually just good enough to take care of a lane all on his own as long as you can dodge Shang-Chi. Other than that, we do run the Storm and Juggernaut combo, just really, really good, especially with the location. Killmonger, way too good of a card to not include here in Surfer with so many 1-drops running around. Mr. Fantastic, really nice for spreading the power around, which is especially good given that we're going to be closing down a lane with Storm pretty often. And Doctor Strange for a bit more utility in moving around our move cards that we want to get buffed up or buffing up our Kraven. And then Polaris, just a very flexible 3-drop that kind of leans into what this archetype is already trying to do while putting out quite a bit of power. If you want to go all in with the movement, live by the move, die by the move, this is probably the list for you. Nothing too unusual about this one. We just jam in pretty much all the good move cards we can and hope for the best. This deck always gets a really big boost from a location like this being active. It's really made for it. So I think Move will finally, have its day in the sun before the upcoming buffs it's going to be receiving with the new cards in the June season. One card I do think is a bit of a flex spot here is Shang-Chi. With the recently buffed Enchantress, you could make an argument for running her over Shang-Chi in this slot. Depends what you're running into, if it's more big stuff versus ongoing effects. I have a feeling there are going to be a lot of big vultures going around, so I think Shang-Chi will probably be the choice, but it's definitely worth your consideration. And we are rocking the Hulkbuster, so we can get the maximum value here out of things like Human Torch and our Multiple Man. And of course Heimdall, everyone sees it coming from a mile away, but sometimes there's still not enough they can do to stop it. The big moving man himself, always a fun card that can sometimes take the opponent by surprise. So that's it for our move focus decks, but what if you want to be an anti-move gamer during this location? Well, first option here, we got the queen herself, Sarah. This has been my favorite deck to play after the patch with the recent Enchantress buff. It's been really nice. This is my favorite version of the deck. I really like the Angela and Jeff inclusion, though you can still play this deck without Jeff. Probably want to pop in Lizard in his space, or you could also consider something like Polaris. But I found this to be one of the most flexible decks in the game. It really does feel like you have game against just about everything, and it's often clear when we're supposed to stay in a game versus retreating if we don't draw the tech cards we need to swing a given matchup. We also have the bonus of running Scarlet Witch here, so we can kind of disrupt these move decks that are planning around their big movement on turn 4 with the location, just shut it off and make them not too happy about it. And of course, we have the Killmonger and our Shang-Chi here to help deal with any pesky threats that might get big, like a Human Torch or a Vulture. Another great option we have here for disrupting the move deck is Professor X, who by locking down a lane prevents cards from being able to be moved around as much. So I think X is a really good choice for the hot location tonight if you don't want to lean into the move, especially in the Thanos shell, as we are able to ramp out our Professor X sometimes as early as turn 4, so I can stop the move as it's happening with the location, or we can use the Reality Stone to stop the location from happening at all. Generally, this is just a combination of the ongoing Thanos and Darkhawk. I found there's been quite a bit of success with Darkhawk and Thanos recently, and it makes a lot of sense. Thanos generally has always had pretty good tempo, so we have more of an aggressive swarm-style deck with just a bunch of very powerful ongoing cards. And then we have our Korg and our Rock Slide to not only pump our Darkhawk, but give some disruption to the opponent's draws with the rocks. And we do have a few ways of going tall. Blue Marvel lets us go wide, but we have Devil Dino and Thanos, as well as the Hawk, obviously, for being able to go a lot taller. And the last deck we have here for tonight's hot location is the Sentry Junk deck. This one uses Professor X very efficiently, but he's not the only way we have of messing up the opponent's ability to play into lanes. This deck is all about disruption, so whether we're giving them a Void, giving them a Hood, giving them Titania, Goblin, we have a lot of stuff to disrupt the opponent's game plan and make it easier for us to close out 2 lanes to win the game. I've played a lot of this deck over the last few weeks, and I'm pretty sure this is the perfect 11 for a disruptional kind of list using Sentry, but there is one card that is kind of our tech spot, which has swapped out a lot for me. I've tried a lot of different things in this spot. Right now we're trying out Enchantress, given the recent buff. The power is really nice, and she counters a lot of powerful cards that are around in the current metagame. But previously, this was Shang-Chi. I've also tried out Jeff as well as Stegron in this spot, and they've both performed pretty well too. So this is definitely kind of the one spot you can put in whatever you want, try it out. But the rest of the deck really core, and I found a lot of success, and I think more importantly, a lot of fun with just messing up the opponent's board positioning and kind of locking them out of the game. So there we have it. Those are all the decks for tonight's hot location, the Bifrost. As always, links will be in the description if you want to import any of these decks for yourself. But that is going to wrap it up for this video. If you enjoyed it, remember to like and subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.